Hey guys, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yes, good. Good to see you both. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No worries. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys. I guess it'd be good if we could kick off the episode with starting us back from the early days of Ashi and Reza. Talk us through where you started in life, where you grew up, college, that sort of thing, and eventually how you guys found your way into your earlier careers. I think it was Kepler Shipyards and Ottawa Rocketry.
So I'm an aerospace and mechanical engineer. I did my aerospace engineering degree from Syracuse University, and then I did my master's from University of Ottawa. That's when I met Reza, and then we were building rockets, high power rockets, propulsion systems, recovery systems, to test scientific payloads under microgravity environments. So we would test blood samples, algae samples, and we would send them to high altitudes, bring them back down, give them to scientific labs to test them. And so that's what we were doing, and we fell in love with. We were already in love with space industry. I was this huge um, space nerd since growing up. I always wanted to be an astronaut and go to space.
Yeah.
Um, and when I met Reza, it felt like he had the same same idea about space industry. And
Yeah.
then we quickly got together and then started Spaceium.
Good. Fantastic. And where do you feel in terms of that? Because a lot of people I speak to on this podcast, they had that space spark quite young in life, I would say. And there's always some sort of pivotal moment or experience for them that made them fall in love with spaces, as you put it there, Ashi. And is there any defining moments you guys can remember, maybe younger in life, that was kind of like the turning point and think, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because a lot of people ask me, and then I'm like, I really don't remember because all I remember is just loving space
Yeah.
as long as I could remember. Like when I was 5 years old, I loved space. Like I think the earliest I could remember was when I was 5 years old and just staring at the sky and then just matching to star maps in the actual sky. So that's what I remember. And I knew I wanted to be an astronaut since the very early days. So I don't really have a pivotal point because I always tell people I just don't know. It was just in my blood. Like I
Yeah.
just loved it so much. Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing that you can know that so young as well. I think I'm always surprised and taken back and inspired by people that come on the podcast that have that spark so young. Because regardless of industry, I think a lot of us probably fall in to careers. They kind of go into things by happenstance. But the amount of you guys amazing co-founders like you two that I speak to that kind of find that North Star so early in life is amazing. What about yourself, Reza? What was your spark?
Yeah. Oh God. I actually remember mine. It was early days. It was when I was 6. I remember that
Yeah.
specifically. It's a weird one because I was a kid. I loved books, reading books. I still do. But I remember it was like this astronomy books. It was like a thin astronomy books for kids or whatever. And there was a section about stars and the sun. And it was I remember on the corner, and there was a cartoon section where this star was eating and sun was eating the earth as a Pac-Man, like a Pac-Man game.
Yeah.
And underneath it was written like in billions of years, the sun will get power. Essentially, the sun starts dying, and as a result, Earth will go down with it. And it was a Pac-Man of the sun eating the Earth, and the Earth like is kind of running away. And then my head was like, we know at some point. I was a kid, and we know at some point in the future. I know it's a long future, but at some point in the future, we know Earth is not a place to be, because it's gonna die, and we know that. Sure, it's millions of years down the road, but we know that for sure.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, why is no one doing anything about it? Like, why is no one like trying to go somewhere else and live there? I mean, sure, we still have millions of years. And again, it was my kids thought, and we have millions of years to get out of here. But also, we don't even know where to go from here. Like, where are we going? Like, no one knows.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, is like, why is no one like actually working on it seriously? And that was my pivotal point. I was like, okay, if no one's doing it, I want to go do it. I was 6 at the time, maybe a bit naive, but that was my pivotal point.
Excellent, love that, and clearly your two guys' passion for the space sector has led you to where you are today at Spaceium. So it'd be great. Could you give our listeners an overview of Spaceium, what you guys do, what you specialize in, and how you fit into the space ecosystem? That'd be great.
Yeah, of course. So, sorry. Uh, so what we are doing at Spaceium is we are building fully automated space stations. So it's like a network of in-space refueling stations to refuel other spacecraft. So basically, think of us like a service station here on Earth, but in space for spacecraft. Because right now, what happens is fuel is one of the biggest bottlenecks in the space industry because now spacecraft can't go further, they can't carry as much as payload they need, they can't reuse their spacecraft because, again, it all comes down to fuel. Fuel is the biggest bottleneck. So
Yeah.
that's what we are building. We are decoupling fuel and payload, reusability, how far they can go, and then be providing that in space for spacecraft. So how we come in is I have specialized in orbital mechanics and propulsion systems. And again, I have love space, and with my previous experience and building launch vehicles, recovery systems, um, propulsion systems. So that's where the whole experience comes in, and then how I complement the work what we do here at Spaceium, and then Reza can add as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much to add. I think what you said, that's kind of where we are. Again, we're kind of, I guess, to add exactly what we're doing. We're more like a station up in space, and we
Yeah.
don't move. We have we have a large amount of fuel that we are providing to our customers, and I just wanted to add to that. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add.
Awesome. Amazing. That must make it very easy to get up in the morning and go to work working on stuff like that.
I mean, there's no waking up. Usually, there's a lot of time it's just all nighter, so you just all night, and then there's no
Yeah.
waking up, so you just go through it. Just
Nocturnal
another day.
hustle.
Yeah. And we don't feel like we are working because this is what we love.
Yeah.
We honestly don't feel like we are going to work or leaving work or working. Honestly, it's just like,
Yeah.
you're just working on what you love. So it's very easy.
Amazing, love it. And I guess on the point of the sector you guys are in with space refueling stations and companies, I know there's not a huge amount, but companies out there that are doing space refueling stations and spacecraft and all that kind of stuff. How do you see that part of the industry evolving over the next 5-10 years, and what part do you see Spaceium playing in that evolution?
Yeah, so essentially, just based on the customer, like essentially since the early days of Spaceium, we try to be obsessed with customers, and since the early, we know over the last like couple of months and even last year, the amount of interest in space refueling has increased drastically. Like right now, it's so much because early days you have to go like pitch to customers like, yo, think about refueling, and then they'll go think about it, and they may never get back to us. Right now, we don't even have to do that section. They come to us, they're like, we want to fuel. How could we do that? Right. And so the demand for it has increased quite a bit, which we're grateful for. And again, we could say that easily because since the early days, we always talk to customers. So it's easy for us to say that because we saw the trend of how it's growing over the next 5 years. Hopefully, because I mean, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of talks about, in space refueling, and people have planned, but I think it's time to actually do it. And I think that will happen over the next 5 years easily, sooner, and we will hopefully be a big players of that part and provide fuel to our customers in space.
Absolutely. Incredible. And what is it? I mean, you've answered this kind of already in the episode, but what is it now that you guys are kind of like in it? I know you've always had that love. You've clearly always had that passion for the space industry, but now that you are kind of living in it, you've got your own space company now, you're working with other people, you're kind of in the industry. What is it you've come to love most about the space industry and being involved within it?
So everybody in the space industry seems very dedicated, and they're all very hardworking, and everybody in the space industry wants to develop this whole space ecosystem and go from there. So that's what we love most about, like especially when we talk to our customers, they're like obsessed with space as well. They're obsessed with what the work that they're doing. So it's really nice. It's very eye-opening to talk to people like that on a daily basis. Just similar minds and wanting to change the world. So that's what we love most about the space industry.
Yeah, it must give you a lot of energy as well, right? Because you're
Yep.
still going to have your ups and your downs. I think when you're speaking with people that have the same passion as well, it probably
Hmm.
recharges you as well. And I echo the same thing. Like even when I go to events and stuff in the US, everyone clearly you can see, wants to be there, loves what they do. And it's just a very nice environment, I would say, as well. Everybody kind of wants to see everyone else win.
Hmm.
Obviously there's going to be companies that do things similar and there's a bit of competition and that kind of stuff, but it's very much a togetherness, I would say, in the space industry of people generally wanting to help one another and
Yep.
succeed.
Yep.
Absolutely. And the other thing I want to talk to you about, and obviously for you guys, it's never been an issue because of your passion in space, but one of the main motives of doing this podcast is to try and make, tell these stories of amazing co-founders like you guys, and tell your story and how you got here essentially. But what do you feel we could be doing more of, in the classrooms at STEM level and sort of, I guess, general education really to try and make space more accessible? Because I still speak to friends and family now, and as soon as I say space, the immediate perception is astronauts, rocket science, astrophysicists. So yeah, what do you think we could and should be doing more to kind of spread the message and make space more accessible for everyone and potentially choosing space as a career?
Yeah. I guess the first thing I would talk about it just in STEM or like classroom in general. I guess first I'll talk about the engineering side of it, then we'll get to the space side. I think one thing that we need to change a lot is people actually building stuff. Like in a lot of classrooms, there's a lot of theoretical things, and that's people seems to be what's focusing on. But I think the main thing that we care about, and not only that, like in the people that we are, I guess, hiring at Spaceium, we want some people who can build stuff, who could build epic things. Actually, this is a memo we have at Spaceium, is like, it means to keep calm and do something. That's, I guess, the thing. And we kind of hash out the calm and say keep not sleeping and build epic shit. And
Mm.
that's kind of our memo. And we want people to be able to build stuff, right? And I think it's also, it makes it a lot more fun for students or kids to be able to also get into that, because they get their hands on experience, they learn a lot more, they have fun with it. So I think that's one side of it. When it comes to space, the same thing applies. A lot of space companies just want people who can build things and build epic things, and try to solve problems that are out there. Because not only in the startup world, I guess in the space industry in general, because space is hard and stuff will go wrong on a daily basis. It's a question of what you do after that, right? You have to be able to learn from it and move forward and build more things. So that's one thing. And another thing is, I guess maybe to higher education right now is not that crazy expensive to build like a CubeSat and send it up to space, right?
Yeah.
It's fortunately that's the era we live in, which is amazing. And I think they could like just giving student like just a small CubeSat to build, like it doesn't have to be the craziest. You just have to go out there, like just survive for 1 week and that's it. And the kids will get so excited about it because they send something to space. Like how cool is that?
Yeah.
I'm already getting goosebumps like talking about. I wish someone when I was a kid it was like this. I think that will be a major win for everyone involved, for the kids, so that they're not really scared of like space as a frontier. They could get into it, and also they could have fun actually doing it. Because maybe I'm biased because I love space, but there's a lot of fun involved, and it's really hard. There's long hours involved, but in the end, it's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think making it fun, making it engaging, regardless of age, and making it relatable as well, I guess. Yeah, anything to add on to that, Ashi?
No, exactly what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that, guys. Great ideas. And the next thing I want to talk about is kind of lessons and achievements. I think when you're building any business, As I've learned, I'm sure you guys learn. There's always hard fought lessons. There's ups, there's downs, all that kind of stuff. But what would you say is your guys' biggest lesson learnt so far in terms of building a business? It doesn't have to be relating to building a business. Could be anything. What would you say is the biggest failure or lesson learned, and what did you learn from that lesson? And on the other side of that coin, what are you most proud of? Like, what's your biggest achievement today?
So one of the biggest lessons is to never give up. I'll give a bit of background why I
Yeah,
said that. When we started, everybody doubted us because at the time, like Reza mentioned, refueling wasn't as big and it was still a growing industry, and uh, everybody doubted us, but we didn't give up. Like there was a point where we only had $2 to our name in the bank account, and we couldn't afford food. We were gonna lose the apartment. Because we put everything we had to Spaceium. We didn't
yeah,
care like if we're gonna eat or not. We put everything we had to Spaceium so Spaceium can survive. And then we kept building, we kept iterating, and we kept talking to customers, because no matter how many people said you can't do this, no one's going to pay you money to put fuel up in orbit, we didn't give up. And one of the most important things is also always listen to your customers, because that's what we did. Always listen to your customers, and if you're building something your customers want, there's no stopping for you, because you are putting something people want, like what YC always says to do that. and and we kept building, and one of the big achievements was when we got into YC, because that was the turning point for us.
yeah.
So right before YC, we had hit rock bottom, and then we got to YC, and YC will always have a huge part in our hearts, because how much our life changed after, because they were the very first people to believe in us, very first people to be like, okay, believe in us as founders, believe in us as in our idea and what we are building. And yeah, and the rest is history. And now we are here.
Oh, man, I got goosebumps. That's incredible. From $2 in the bank to where you guys are now, the fundraise, the YC Combinator, everything. That is incredible. In terms of resilience and the drive, you almost have to be like, I don't want to say like deluded, but you know what I mean. It's like nobody is going to tell you different. Like nobody is going to tell you cannot do this. Nobody's going to tell you this isn't going to work. And I love that you guys just never gave in, and was even willing to sacrifice the human basics of being able to eat, rather than actually feed the fuel for Spaceium and keep going. That's an incredible story. I love that.
Yeah, and also that doesn't mean we are negligence, right?
Yeah,
But we kept iterating. So that's the most important part, because if when people tell you can't do it, within reason you have to see like why people are saying this, and you have to keep
yeah,
iterating and keep learning. So that's what we did. There were a lot of people that doubted us, but what we did was we kept testing our hardware. We kept talking to our customers,
yeah.
and we just kept going. So that's what really made the big difference for us.
And those iterations that you spoke about, was that the feedback when you said about always listening to your customers, always speaking to them? Did those iterations come from those customer feedback sessions?
Exactly. Yeah. Always
Okay.
listen to your customers. And that's one of the biggest things we have done. And that's why we are here.
That sounds like such an obvious point, and yet I know so many companies don't do this. So just on that point, because I do think it's very important. How did you go about that in terms of getting that customer feedback? Would you literally just go and talk to them at events and just ask them, or would you do surveys, or would it be like a quarterly thing, a monthly thing? How did you go actually getting that information from your customers to go and do the iterations?
Yeah, we would just talk to them. It's just so
Yeah,
simple. It's such a basic thing that people don't really think about. We would just set up calls with them, ask for their feedback. And in the space industry, everybody's happy to give feedback. Everybody's happy to talk about their pain points. And then it's easy to build from there. Sometimes you build something after talking to them, but you still have to keep iterating, because all
yeah,
businesses change. And within reason, you still have to keep iterating to provide to your customers, because at the end of the day, who are we serving to? We are serving to our customers, even if
yeah.
it's fuel in space.
Amazing. Love that. Very, very easy theoretically, hard to execute, but you guys clearly have. So that's amazing. And I guess on that point, for anyone listening to this podcast, I mean, you mentioned a couple of them there around the YC and various other things, but for anyone that's listening to this, is there any resources that maybe you guys identified on your journey, on your way into the space sector and setting up Spaceium and stuff, for anyone that's listening that again still has that perception that it is all just astronauts and rocket science? Was there any resources or courses, programs, mentors that you guys identified to kind of help with your transition into the space sector?
Yeah, so I wouldn't. That's an interesting question. Because in our experience, right, we didn't get much support from except Y Combinator. It was mostly, we had like our customers and what is it called, like and then a gold star, and we just worked towards that, right? Whatever happens. Like that, I would say to everyone, I guess, who's listening to this podcast, whether they're thinking about building a space company or non-space company, any companies. I will advise to apply for Y Combinator. I know we say too much Y Combinator, but honestly, that's what we do think. And other than that, again, the main thing is talking to customers and building what they want. In terms of resources, I can't pinpoint anything significant. It's just building and believing what you are building and trying to learn new things. I think that's another important thing. Because for us, a lot of stuff we do and a lot of, I guess, some of the other companies do is stuff that haven't been done before because space industry is growing so much. Yeah. And in order to actually be able to do something that haven't been done before, and in our experience, there's only two things involved. One is willing to learn. Two is to willing to put the hours. That's all it takes. And for people who we are hiring, that's the same answer we give to them. Like on our job posting, we say, we don't care what we have because we're building something new. So it doesn't make sense for someone to have past experience because it hasn't been done before. So what experience we're asking for? Yeah. But the only two things that matter is willing to learn and putting like crazy long hours. I would say other than those are the two resources you really have. Whoever is trying to build something, get to the space industry. Because if you're just willing to learn and put the hours, I think you'll be able to find. You will get to industry and it'll be so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess again, like when you've got the passion that you two guys clearly have, the long hours, the long nights, the long days don't really feel like work. I think obviously work-life balance has been made a really big thing over the last few years, but it's probably, I'm not saying it's exclusive to those people, but I think work-life balance is probably more for people that maybe don't necessarily enjoy their job as much, and don't have their passion because it feels like work all the time.
Yeah, that's what I said like earlier. We don't feel like we are working. So yeah, I don't know about work-life balance, but we work all the time and we enjoy it. So for us, it's very balanced because we love what we are doing.
Good, excellent. And just a final question for me today, guys. I'd like to hear from both of you on this one is, again, for anyone listening to this podcast, whether they're technical or non-technical, someone that's looking in and says, I really want to be a part of the space sector. Like, I love it. There's going to be different people out there like different things about the space sector, but regardless if they're, an engineer or they're in law or sales or, whatever it is, what is the one bit of advice that you two would give to that person or people listening to this podcast now that want to get into the space sector this year?
I would say go talk to people and learn their pain points. And then from there, you can come into the space sector because there's so much to do in the space sector. It's still growing. So there's so many opportunities. And it's just not just technical. There's so many non-technical opportunities as well as there's technical opportunities. So go talk to people, meet people, go to conferences, talk to other space companies. And then you'll find what you want to do in the space sector. And don't give up.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think on top of talking to people, beyond that, if it's technical or non-technical, I think what people really want to see is your ability to build things, build epic shit, I guess what we call it. And that's what is important. I think even if you're non-technical, because it's kind of, I guess, kind of obvious for technical what you need to build or what you could build. And for non-technical, so as Ashi said, there's a lot of needs for non-technical things in the space industry because it's growing. And I think there's a lot of potential there to even build stuff in that type of like niche. And I think just by like talking to people, finding their pain points, just building things upon that, we could easily crack into the space industry and kind of start working here in the industry, and it will be a lot of fun. And the future is going to be more exciting. I guess another thing I wanted to add, I guess for maybe who are other people who are looking for building companies in the sector. There was this quote I guess I heard recently. Actually, it was by Blake, founder of Boom Supersonic. Shout out to them, awesome people there. He said that like if you want to build a company, there's a really, really high chance that you will fail. And that's the truth. And that's how it is. But the thing is, like, you could do two things. You could go build something small and you may still like fail, or you could go build something massive and build something people want and change the world, and you still might fail. But between the two, the second one seems to be more exciting and build something crazy, something out there, something that you're passionate about. I think that's definitely worth more than the other way around. That's for people. I guess I have a advice for people who actually want to start a company in this sector.
Yeah, you may as well potentially fail at doing something you love rather than fail at something you don't. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Ash, what you mentioned there around talking to people, that kind of goes back to my point as well. Like people are just so welcoming in the space sector. Like everyone's willing to talk to you. One, yes, because they're passionate about what they do and they'll talk about it all day. But again, I think it's this kind of collaborative culture that I've seen over the last 7 years, as long as I've been doing this. So yeah, couldn't agree more. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for coming on the podcast show. It's been I've loved it. I love this conversation. It's absolutely brilliant, especially your guys' story from having $2 in the account to the fundraise is really, really inspiring. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week and look forward to catching up again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Richard.